Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the I'm a Beweaver event, in which the Scrollweaver is added to the game. So this week has quite a few things going on. We got ourselves some Blighted Lands, Guild Wars, Purple Tower of Doom, the finishing up of the summer calendar, and even version 8.7. Even though we've had an update recently, they're doing another update this week that is going to be bringing in a few changes to early game. For the most part, this will only really affect you for about your first hour of gameplay, as well as your first time playing through each one of the storylines. We'll have the patch notes in its entirety in the description if you want to go read over it. But aside from these achievements, if you're a veteran player, this is pretty much the only thing you really need to know. You just go and spam a bunch of burning gems, freeze gems, and barrier gems when the patch hits. It should be hitting sometime tomorrow on Tuesday, around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or so. But yeah, there's not really much to do when it does happen, other than just go farm the achievements real quick if you want to go on those. But beyond that is mostly just adjusting some of the early game experience. It's a pretty small patch, mostly just to kind of clean up the first hour and just the first playthrough of all the original quests. I guess technically veteran players will see this whenever they do a Legends Reborn, where we have to play through the quest line a little bit, because they're reducing the amount of battles you have to do in some locations, a few other things like that. So should make the overall quest progression in early game just a little bit easier, as of course is one of the main priorities you kind of want to do as the newer players, go get all those free epics you get from completing out every quest line. So this is kind of makes that whole transition of early game a lot smoother. So that's mostly what they're trying to get done with that. But yeah, beyond that, this week, we do a Blighted Lands Guild War. It is finally happening this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Summer events still going on, which of course we had the reward for yesterday, as well as again this Sunday. And of course, Purple Tower of Doom. So let's start getting into things, starting with, I guess, the teams. So some people have been mentioning for me to cover the Guild War Defend teams. I will be doing that, but it will be in a separate video tomorrow. I will specifically be doing it for a green Defend setup. So, of course, if you go over to Guild Wars, where's the Guild War thing? If you go to Guild, go over to Guild Wars. Of course, guild leaders, you can end up setting any of the keeps that you want. And overall, I would say blue and green are probably the absolute strongest, and I personally like setting for green. So in tomorrow's video, I will cover a defend team going over one defend for each of the areas, as well as potentially some alternatives for lower rarity stuff, but mostly just mentioning one defend for each one of the 9 locations you have. So we'll be doing that in a separate video tomorrow, just because there's a little bit too many teams to include here. However, the teams that we do have in this video, of course, aside from all the weekly stuff, will be the Blighted Lands offensive team. So let's start getting into everything first. So let's start from all the way top. First things first, Purple Doom, of course. Two main things with this for Purple Doom events, or any Doom event, is you have to use the Doomed weapon, so you get double score whenever you kill a Doom. You technically don't have to do this on the smaller battles, but you generally should just have it on every single team, just so you don't forget to go set it when a Doom applies, because if you don't forget to reapply it when a Doom is in the battle, you will not get your double score. So make sure to always be using it on all the Doom fights. For the first fight here, we're pretty much just going pretty standard Flower Dragon quick kill. We have access to Pharaoh, so we can get a bunch of mana off its final trait, and just feeding directly into Flower Dragon, or whatever your best damage source is. It doesn't have to be Flower Dragon. It could be Stellarix, could be anything you have that does a lot of damage under the purple category. For the lower rarity team, we're using basically Leprechaun or Leprechaun Thrall if you do not have the a second damage option. Basically what we're doing here is we're using the force to have to use Doomed Weapon with a Thrall somewhere on your team, either in first slot or over top one of the damage sources, and then we're basically using Thrall Leprechaun to feed mana into whatever your best damage source is. Nocturnia, you can get this from throwing Chaos Shards at Blighted Lands, or specifically Fell Roost, so you can end up getting that this week or any week just by throwing Chaos Shards at it. You'll be able to get a lot of that on the Tuesday faction event tomorrow, so if you don't already have this, you can just throw some Chaos Shards from that event tomorrow, go get this thing, and yeah, just use that as your main damage source. As Resummon, if you end up needing it, has a decent amount of true damage, and we just be poking it down with that. If you happen to have it, he does not need to be fully traded or anything, you just need a single copy of him. A Immortal Ossifer from PvP would help out a lot here. He ends up doing a Skull Convert, but most notably, he does a bunch of true damage to all enemies, which of course goes really well with the fact that you're already doing a bunch of true damage, and you'll get a little bit of mana accumulation from him, as well as covering a bunch of other colors, as if you're running Thrall Leprechaun into only a 2-color thing, especially since it has to be purple, you're only really covering one extra color, so ideally you do want to have one other thing to kind of cover the rest. In this particular instance, we're using Immortal Ossifer, but you can use whatever else you have, or even simply just go all in for mana accumulation, either way. As far as the faction, you can actually just copy-paste whatever your Purple Doom teams are, as the restriction for faction this week is purple-green for the Tuesday faction event. Since your Purple Tower of Doom team is already pure purple, all you'd have to do is copy-paste whatever team you're using for that, and just replace out the weapon for a real weapon. However, I'm showing two completely different teams here. For this one, we're showing just a pretty standard Alana quick kill ever since they got 75% mana start. It's a really good way to just get going and instantly do a bunch of damage. Just offsetting that with Black Manacle, and you use whatever hero class you want to get class XP off of. For the higher rarity team, we're actually using the new guy. I forgot to mention this in the weekly video last week. We did cover a separate video for him. I thought this was the mythic that was from the thing, like the pass. But no, this was actually a new 8 Power Orb mythic that they finally added to the game. We've kind of known about this guy for a while in the files. He's been in the files for like half a year to a year or so. However, yeah, he was finally added last week. And we did cover a video, all the teams and everything for him, but he is really, really good. If you didn't pick him up, as we mentioned last week too, he wasn't just available last week. He's available last week, this week, next week, every week, literally for the rest of time. So the second you get 8 Power Orbs scrapped together, you should pretty much just get this immediately. He's by far the best, even better than Zolgoth when it comes to the 8 Power Orb mythics. He ends up killing an enemy, creates 12 random potion gems, and then gains auto extra turn. The auto extra turn is the crazy part. If it's this stop there, it'd be kind of more in scale with where the other ones are. But the auto extra turn is kind of crazy because that much potion value into guaranteed turn, with the fact that he can't be frozen either. He is vulnerable, so he's not going to get frozen ever. You might be frozen on a given color, but him himself having that extra turn is non-freezable. He cannot be frozen. Even if you try curse freezing him, he will not get frozen. So he basically just always has extra turn. Unlike many other things in the game where they could at least be curse frozen or something similar. But yeah, he can never, ever, ever be frozen. So that is really strong. Actually, I believe he's the first actually ever to have this combo of both invulnerable plus a guarantee extra turn. As in the current state of the game, unless they add something in the future that can kind of counter it, there is no countering this extra turn that he has. Beyond that, he also has Submerge, which makes him really good at countering some of the meta these days, like Tesla, Flower Dragon, Stellaric, stuff like that. As the second he gets hit by something that hits all enemies, or anything at all, he'll gain protection against all enemies. You can still dispel this, however, you can't curse it off of him. Because he is immune to curse, you have to specifically dispel it. So things like Mechanist hero class with that dispel that it has, or any of the hero classes that have the extra turn dispel, stuff like that. Any troop that has the ability to dispel. But curse specifically will not, because curse will only dispel if curse applies, and he's immune to curse because of the immune to all stats effects. So you specifically have to use dispel to remove the submerge, or wait till it does an attack, which will also remove its submerge. And then of course it also has the other ability of gaining a little bit extra stats, but that's really crazy. And the nice thing about Underworld specifically, not Underspire or anything like that, but specifically Underworld, there is 0 troops immune to insta-kill. So you can run this thing as your only damage source. It's not like Iron Gut where you might run into things that have immune to Devour or other things like that. You can run this as your only damage source the entire time through the entirety of Underworld specifically, all the way to level 500. Obviously in the earlier fights you probably still want to run a quick kill team like the Alana one we showed. But yeah, this one scales all the way to 500, and you can just run it the whole time just using Thrall Leprechaun to feed it or whatever you want. Of course with green purple you can use Thrall Leprechaun, but whatever mana accumulation setup you want. Of course don't even need Wand of Stars here, but we just have it just to cover the rest of the colors. And yeah, just play the team normally from there. As far as the Pure Faction team, we're running double Deep Huntsman into double Maelstrom. Maelstrom ends up doing a bunch of insta-kills, as well as just a bunch of poke damage, as the Web Curse already attached to it, so you don't even need to put a separate thing on your team to have that effect. And the Deep Huntsman does a bunch of mana accumulation. Ideally, due to his 100% chance of summoning a Tome Spider, the way that you actually want to run this is on the very first fight, you want to deliberately let your first Deep Huntsman die, so that it becomes a Tome Spider. That way, for the rest of the Delve, or the faction, you end up having a Tome Spider, Deep Huntsman, and then double Maelstrom. You cannot start your team that way, otherwise it doesn't count as Pure Faction, but you're allowed to end it that way. So just have your first Deep Huntsman die, and then you have Tome Spider, Deep Huntsman, and double Maelstrom Valine as your team for running the Pure Faction. And that will count as a Pure Faction win as long as you start it this way. But yeah, that's pretty much the strategy there. Tome Spider for a bunch of skull pressure, this guy for a bunch of mana accumulation, as well as backup summon if you happen to get that far. And then this thing just to insta-kill down the entire team, which is of course your main damage source for the entire battle. As far as the Orbweaver class event, this is a Thursday event where you just basically claim your free 25 gems. And for this, we're running specifically Dustbringer. One thing that's pretty noteworthy for this, and particularly Underspire this week, is there is a lot of extra magic for running 4x Zol Carry, as well as a little bit for elves, but particularly for 4x Zol Carry. 4x Zol Carry team gains absurd amount of magic. One of the highest, if not the highest of any kingdom, as far as like the total that you get just from using 4 times of the kingdom. It is ridiculously good in that regard. So it could really pump up the amount of damage of your weapon, so it's really important to use Orbweaver. Unfortunately, Orbweaver does not have 10 or 20% bonus this week, but you still get a ton from just the general soul carry that you already have. Beyond that, we're using Dustbringer here. Dustbringer is a little bit expensive. However, you can run Black Manacle or War War and Peace. Either or is fine. The only issue with that is the 2 empowers here are green and purple, and the only really good weapon that hits all enemies as both green and purple is Dustbrer. However, you can just simply use black mana gold and just get rid of your green mana accumulation, or vice versa if you're using like War and Peace or something, get rid of your purple mana accumulation and just run like another elf there just to offset it and just do it that way. We're also getting a little bit extra green mana from having Nature Link off of this as well. That's pretty much the game plan, just pretty standard quick kill, something that hits all enemies kind of setup. So as far as Underspire, there's a really fun troop we get to run. So we mentioned this when the Flower Dragons first came out a while back, of course a couple months, however long it was when the Flower Dragons first released. And this is the first time where we've realistically had a good time to use Blue Flower Dragon. One thing that's really interesting about Blue Flower Dragon, of course, it scales very, very nicely off of magic, as do all the Flower Dragons, as do pretty much all the Dragonite-related dragons. However, the thing that's interesting about this, as we kind of mentioned earlier, is Zolkiri gains a lot of extra magic. We're gaining 3 from having 3 elves. Of course, it's not an elf, so unfortunately can't get more than that. There's also not really enough elementals to run down the elemental route to go that way. But we have 4 times Zolkiri, which of course is giving us right there 30 or however much, depending on how upgraded you have your pets and the kingdom. But it's still going to be a lot of magic regardless. And he scales very well off of magic. So well that this is actually more damage than you would have than if you use Flower Dragon. So if we go to something like, oh no, where's my Flower Dragon team? So if we go check his damage real quick, he's at 256 as his starting amount of damage. And let's just go to like a standard like Flower Dragon quick kill team. And you can see it is lower. Its starting damage is only at 194, despite having a better boost ratio. But that's because it doesn't have all that extra magic at the start of battle like a Zolkiri team does. So he is really, really good in that regard. He doesn't have any kind of explodes or any way to really gain a lot of mana back. But the amount of initial damage he has for one-shotting, he could probably one-shot all the way to like floor 3, like probably almost to floor 4 with how much damage it has. It is really, 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 really high. So yeah, great option. Getting him his mana back can be a little bit annoying, but that's why we have these other 2 troops. He explodes a bunch of gems, explodes a bunch of gems, has resummon in case this dies 2 times over somehow, and then of course is doing empower. Basically, the whole rest of the team is just giving this thing mana essentially, so that we can go and keep casting it for an absurdly high amount of damage. As unlike the Chrysathanax, he does not have the mass explode to regain his magic, which is the main thing holding him back. Is compared to Flower Dragon, even though he does have this kind of team setup where he can do a bunch of damage, it does not have any good way of really getting mana back on its own like Flower Dragon does, which is the main difference between the 2. But whenever it's a Zolkiri restriction like this, yeah, you might as well, because you're forced to have to use Zolkiri anyway. So yeah, one of the few times where it's actually better than the 6-color dragon, oddly enough, at least in some situations. And this is that one situation. Anyways, as far as a low rarity team, we're basically just running the weapon. Again, this is in Soulforge, so if you don't have it, you can easily go get it this week. And we're just running this for backup resummon. The Malcandessa, again, just for empower, really just useful to just convert into green empower. We're using the Seekra as our main damage source here. This is one of the old journey troops that boosts based on how many elves are on your team. And of course, we're running 4 times elves, not just for all the bonuses, but because we need it for the full boost ratio. So that creates 10 purple gems every single time it casts. Then we simply just go set our banner to a heavy amount of purple and just use this to mana accumulate for basically everything on your team except for hero. But we have the extra red mana, so we could try getting that off of red and just try taking 2 reds to get it to full mana. That's pretty much the game plan here. We also put 1 Maelstrom here. If you have something better, you can put it here, but we're mostly just doing this as a cheap option to insta-kill with. If you don't currently have this, you can throw a bunch of Chaos Shards at Eldrazi. Otherwise, you can just put whatever other best damage source you have here, ideally of an elf, and it would be perfectly fine. As far as Guild Wars, finally into the Guild War teams. So as we mentioned earlier, Guild Wars is specifically a Blighted Lands restriction, as we can see right over here. Unfortunately, I don't think we can see the reward. Oh no, we can see the rewards at the moment. Nice. And the main thing I wanted to go show here is, it wasn't showing earlier, that's weird. I guess it got fixed because the update was just so recent. But the main reason I wanted to go here is to see the shiny troop. So is there not a way to see the question mark box on it? But yeah, we can tell based on his image though, that is I forgot how to say that name. It starts with B. I know exactly who it is, but I forget how to say his name. It is this guy, right here. This one, the Baphomet. So Baphomet is getting shinied. I forget exactly what it is, but whatever it is, I think it was really good. He was either getting like an extra hit or triple damage burning. If it is triple damage burning, oh gosh. It might just be an extra hit though. Regardless of which one it is really, really, really good. It deals a bunch of damage to 3 random enemies, and if they are burning, it'll deal double damage. Of course, there are a couple different ways you could do burning. The most noteworthy one is, of course, Elementalist, which can do a billion extra things per extra turn. One of those being burn. The other one, which is actually from the kingdom, and you can get it at any point too. So even if you're a lower rarity team, you can end up doing this. I put it on the mid rarity team specifically though. But after 250 wins with the Blighted Lands hero class, you get a weapon called Fiendfire. And you can farm this at any point. You have plenty of time if you currently don't have it now to farm in the next 3 days to go and get that. But it deals a bunch of damage to all enemies, boosted by Daemon allies, which of course your whole team is pretty much going to be Daemon. But the main reason we want this is it curse and burns all enemies. So you have curse burn. So as long as they don't have invulnerable or something similar, or even if they have impervious, you'll be able to go past that, get a burn on them, and then of course you'll be able to apply his extra damage off his ability. So that is really, really, really good. The other thing, which I think we do on the higher rarity team, is you can put him a little bit further up on your team and use him more so for skulls as well. Because on the top of how much damage he has from his ability, he also has triple damage burning, just like Hero. He is the only troop in the game, I believe, that has specifically triple. There's a bunch that have double, but I believe he's the only one that specifically has triple other than Hero. So, yeah, really good, because it allows you to run a different hero class, in this case, Elementalist, because, of course, Elementalist does not have triple damage burning, but it does have Barrier on Brown, it does have the burn effect on its final trait, stuff like that. So it allows you to still have triple damage burning while running Hero as something else, which is the main thing that we're using it for here. But anyways, as far as the high rarity team here, we're using a specifically fully maxed Immortal Phoenix. What I mean by this is fully traded. Normally, when it comes to an Immortal, I consider them almost like a low rarity troop because you just kind of need one copy of your team and they're perfectly fine. Like Immortal Ossifer, for example, you just kind of plop them on your team, that's fine. You don't really need them fully traded. The Curse Stun would be nice, but you don't really need them to be fully traded to function how you need them to function. This does. You do need to have them like level, what, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. I'm going to go double check. Oh, I just made that the wrong ratio. No, the recording's going to be weird with a black bar now. How do I fix that? Let's see. Wait. I think that's the first time I've ever done that in a recording. I do that on stream so often. I don't think I've ever done that in a recording yet, though. Anyways, where was it going? Oh, yeah, I was going to go check PvP. I can show it real quick. I want to just double check what the exact number is. So if we go to Immortals, and we go to, I don't know, any Immortal we don't have upgraded, I guess. Yeah, you get them fully traded at level 4. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought. Yeah, you need to get them to level 4 to have them fully traded. This is very important for Immortal Phoenix, and in total you would need 100 of the little tokens for it, the Immortal Souls, which is about 4 or 5 drops or so on average, depending on how many you get per thing. Though it could take as many as 10 if you somehow only roll 10 at each time. But yeah, anywhere from like 4 to 7-ish drops you would end up needing to get of whatever the specific mortal is, and that would not only give you the copy of it, but also enough to get it fully traded. And in this troop specifically, the Immortal and Phoenix, it is pretty important to have it fully traded, as his whole premise is kind of based around being fully traded. He has, of course, Invulnerable, like all of them do, but on top of that has 50% score reduction, which makes it really, really tanky, especially in first slot where you're being hit by skulls. But it also has the old Megavore trait. I mean, not Megavore, the old Great Maul trait. The Great Maul used to have a 15% chance to devour that got nerfed to 10%, that then got nerfed to 5% and then moved to a different troop. However, it was now re-added. So this thing has 10% devour and 15% once you have it like fully maxed out, which I'm pretty sure no one has a level 30 version of it. But still, they have the nerfed 10% version of him when you don't have it maxed. And yeah, it's pretty nice. He's never going to lose it because he's invulnerable. He has stone skin, so he gets to use that durability really well. He gets to gain a ton of durability and attack from his ability. He gains a bunch of attack, life, and armor. It doesn't get doubled, but it's still a pretty sizable amount. And he has follow-up on it, so he doesn't just do only that, because that's a big issue with a lot of tank mythics, is they kind of just do something and then nothing else. But this guy just has 5 explodes. Of course, 5 explodes for 30 mana cost, not the greatest, but it's better than nothing. So he does have that going for him. So really good overall tank mythic that has a chance to just insta-kill enemies while gaining all their stats, which goes really well with his whole trait setup and his ability. Beyond that, we're using Baphomet for backup, so if this dies, Baphomet will be doing triple damage burning, still have its really strong ability. We're using the Gatekeeper Explodey weapon. Keep in mind, if you do not own this weapon, it is not possible to get this week, unfortunately. This is one of the few annoying things with not having like a Blighted Lands event week like prior, like the last Guild War where we had like a Dwarf event week prior. There is no way to get Gatekeeper weapon if you currently do not have Gatekeeper weapon. It is pretty easy to have gotten in the past, but if you didn't pick it up last Blighted Lands event or any previous Blighted Lands event, it is currently unobtainable this week, so you're going to have to use something completely different here if you don't own it. But beyond that, we're using this for its resummon. It also gives a random status effect to all daemons, which includes our entire team other than our hero. And beyond that, because we have such good skull value between Immortal Phoenix and Baphomet, we're using Immortal King. He has double convert. He converts green to skull and brown to red. We're also doing a little bit of scatter damage, which is mostly good for getting rid of barrier. As long as they're not submerged, but they are barriered, it will get rid of all the barriers on the opposing team, which is the main thing that you would get from that. It also has a small chance to resurrect, though. That's mostly just using him for a skull convert. That's pretty much the team then. There's really heavy skull-related troops, spamming this for the extra damage he does against burning. You have all the extra burning you need off of Elementalist. You have backup resummon in case any of these start dying, and Inferno King for a little bit more damage pressure with the skulls, since your front two are really good with skulls. Beyond that, the mid-rarity team, we're basically going all into Baphomet. This is also particularly good if you're going to be shining your Baphomet, like spending the $5 to actually go get him extra shinied, as you'll only be able to get him at the end of the week to shiny level 1, which would lower his mana cost by 1 to 16 if you don't spend any. However, midway through the event, if you do spend some, you would be able to go get him fully max, which would not only reduce his magic or his mana cost by 2, bringing him all the way down to 15, but would also end up enhancing his ability, which I can't remember which one it gets. Is either getting triple damage burning or an extra hit of 4 instead of 3. I do not know which, but whatever one it is really good either way, if he gets another hit or the triple damage. But regardless, he's actually a really good shiny for once. A lot of the other ones didn't really gain too much of a benefit. This one does. It actually makes him a really viable troop, especially since he's pretty much like the premier troop you'd be using if you want triple damage burning without using hero. As even though hero is the way to do it, it allows you to offset to a different hero class. With that being said, we're actually using Archmages here. So instead of having you be forced to a triple damage burning hero class, we can use Archmages here. Archmage's most noteworthy thing is +3 purple, +2 off its final trait, and +1 off of its second to last trait. So we're using this for +3 purple just to gain a ton of extra purple. One nice thing about Blighted Lands is it has 2 different, not just 1, but 2 Empower purple options. We have blue to purple off of the Herald of the Damnation, also a little bit of skull reduction and Death Touch, which is why we're using it first slot. He might pick up a free kill and has a little bit extra tankability. It's not much, but you might get something out of it. We're using Fiend Fire here as our Curse Stuns, or Curse Burn, I mean. So this will be able to apply Burn to everything as long as you don't have Invulnerable, which there might be some of, especially with that new Immortal. On your final fight, you're probably going to have to deal with something that has full immunity, which you won't be able to get the extra damage on. But if you see anything left on your team, like this can easily one-shot it. If that's the only thing left is them having like one thing immune to burn and everything else, you can still end up killing with one ability of this. It's pretty strong as far as how much damage it gets. I believe from Blighted Lands team, you get a little bit extra magic too. Yeah, not as much as Olkiri. Oh, I guess we're not 4 times team here, but there's a very similar amount of extra magic as Olkiri does for using a 3 times or 4 times Blighted Lands team. So yeah, you're still getting a pretty sizable amount of magic. That's 18 right there. That's pretty solid. And for last thing here, we have Lammerstew. Of course, another purple converter. Also has a little bit of damage, but we're mostly using it, obviously, for its purple convert there to get her a little bit extra mana. For our low rated team, we're actually going all in on using just the Nocturnia. If you have better damage options, obviously you could use better damage options, but this is actually obtainable this week, unlike everything else from Blighted Lands, which are not targetable at all. Some things that are targetable is every single thing from Fell Roost. So if you feel like you have absolutely nothing to use for this current Blighted Lands event week, you can obtain all 5 of these troops for Blighted Lands by throwing Chaos Shards at the portal for Fell Roost in the Underworld screen. So just go over there, and of those 5, the best is by far the new, or not the new, but the legend that we have here. Actually, what does the new guy do? A bunch of scare damage. Yeah, the new guy's not worth using. So yeah, you would mostly just be searching for the legend. But yeah, this thing's not too bad. We showed it on the other teams already, but it deals a bunch of true damage, heavy true damage splash to a single enemy. So basically, he'll hit a bunch of true damage for the full amount to one enemy, and then the one above and below will be hit for 75% of that true damage as well. So you're hitting for a total of 250% true damage, effectively, where 100% is being applied to your target and 75% to the one above and below. And it does do true damage to all 3, so you're hitting directly to their HP value, skipping over their defensive value. It burns and diseases all affected enemies, so you also have the burn if you had like that triple damage burning guy to go with it, or the double damage burning guy. But the other thing that's actually pretty useful is he has backup summon. He has a 20% chance to summon the Fell Dragon Egg, which is this guy over here. And it's basically just a little bit of a meat shield. He doesn't really do too much. He does have a little bit of resummon himself, but you're mostly just having this as a meat shield, which would then end up replacing your current meat shield, which is just mostly empowering for you with the Lammerstew. As I mentioned earlier, if you do not have this weapon, simply just replace it for any other weapon you have. I do have to show a hero here because it is pretty important that we run elementals here, so we have the tankability. The only problem with this is your resummon options off a hero are pretty bad otherwise if you don't have this weapon. So you're just going to have to run whatever your strongest Blighted Lands weapon that you happen to have is, with the absolute strongest being Gatekeeper, but whatever you have that's your next best option, just put that there if you don't have Gatekeeper, because there's no way to get this weapon this week. But there are ways to get other weapons, like the 250 win Blighted Lands weapon if you need from the hero class or something similar. But basically the whole premise here is we need to have hero here, so we have Elementalists. Elementals, of course, having all the extra protection, as well as having Barrier on Brown. So that's pretty much the whole gimmick that we're doing there. And then we just keep resummoning with either your weapon, or if you don't have a weapon that can resummon, you're doing it off of the eggs. So you're still going to be getting tanks in the first slot that are both red, yellow, and just spam your Nocturnia until you win, using your hero ideally to mana accumulate for your 2 Nocturnias, or to damage if you have a damaging weapon that can go with it. That's pretty much the game plan there, and just playing it really, really safe, just chipping them down slowly off a Nocturnia, and that's pretty much the plan for a low rarity option. But yeah, those are 3 Guild War teams. If you have any others, feel free to suggest them in the comments below as well. And as I mentioned earlier, since there's been so many requests for it, we will, in a tomorrow video, go over a bunch of defend teams specifically for green defend layout. So we'll go over like 1 team for each and kind of explain them. Not that though I might go buy it. I'm considering it because I really want to see what he's like when he's fully maxed out like that, especially with his second perk. It's actually really strong for once. But yeah, we'll show a team for all of these tomorrow. I just didn't want to include it in this video, otherwise it will go so much longer than it already has. Anyways, other things that we have going on this week other than Guild Wars. So Soulforge, a couple interesting things to Soulforge this week. One to mention that I forgot to mention in the other weekly video, though we did cover a separate video for it, is the Maelstrom Dagonoth, the 4th Power Orb Mythic, is available in Soulforge for forever. It's available last week, this week, next week, every week for the rest of time. Simply just go get your 8 Power Orbs and you basically have them, as the other 2 resources are effectively free for how cheap they are compared to the 8 Power Orbs. The main 8 Power Orbs definitely going to be your bottleneck, of course. But yeah, this thing really, really solid. Definitely pick up one as soon as you possibly can. It is by far the most useful thing to do with your 8 Power Orbs, so make sure to get it. Has invulnerable, submerge into a little bit extra stats. The fact that it has invulnerable and aquatic makes it among one of the hardest things to kill with cast damage in the entire game, even though it doesn't have any spell reduction. Because all of its immunities while gaining that submerge makes it really hard to pin down. The easiest way to deal with this, like any other boss though, is to use a boss slaying troop. He does not have stealthy, which would have been insane if he actually had that, like aquatic or some better submerging trait into invulnerable into stealthy. Would have been absolutely crazy. It does not have stealthy though, so one thing you could do for this is any of the boss slaying troops, they could do up to 5 times that extra damage to it, which can one-shot this troop. So if you see a lot of these in your green or blue or any Guild War battle, one thing to mention, which I actually did not show on any of the teams, but one thing to mention on any of the Guild War teams, I don't know, let's just say the high rarity one and we want to replace out, I don't know, maybe like Inferno King or something, whatever one you want to end up replacing out ultimately. One thing that you could do if you go to Blighted Lands, definitely worth considering, if you type in boss here, which there's only one, it's Lucifria. Lucifria has 5 times extra damage, or up to 5 times, depending on how upgraded, 3 times to 5 times, but ideally 5 times, to, because you could use blue orbs to get it there if you needed to. You could use the blue orb twice and get her fully max. But, yeah, you could have up to 5 times damage to a boss. And she also gets burn all enemies. Okay, that's not too bad if you use that with Baffomet as well. That could be her burn option, not even need hero to a degree. But anyways, still nice to have elementals for it. But yeah, she has 50%, so she only needs 6 mana to get off the ground. She also has double burning, which goes pretty well with all the other burning. Not only that she has, but your team would probably have to synergize with Baphomet. So you can kind of like replace it there or something similar. But she is really, really good at dealing with the boss because you can just do 5 times damage, which should be enough in most circumstances, unless there's a big stat discrepancy between you and the enemy. This should be enough to one-shot the boss. So if the enemy is running, which is going to be really common, because blue and green are by far the 2 most common defends. You know what? I'm even just going to put that there for the copy-paste team, because I have a feeling it's going to be common enough. We're probably going to have to change this like every final battle anyways. You know what? We're just going to put it in. There we go. That's our team now. But I think it is actually going to be common enough where we are going to have to bring her out just to make sure we could deal with that troop. Because anytime it can be used, I'm pretty sure people are going to be using it now. And to be able to just one-shot it outright is going to be very, very, very strong. Otherwise, use Inferno King here, of course. But anyways, but yeah, that's the main way that you deal with it. So if you ever see that in PvP or something similar, or in Guild War, which will probably be the most relevant upcoming time that you're going to be seeing it a ton, particularly in the final battle every single time, like every green and pretty much every Guild War, the final fight will have this on it probably. So yeah, just use a boss slayer on it, one-shot it, you'll be good to go. But yeah, really strong. It has infinite insta-kill, and it's mostly used for Underworld, I would say. It's probably the main game mode you could use it for. But of course, Guild War Defend is pretty strong for anything in PvP in general. It's pretty good for pretty much anything that you're dealing with high stats, or if you're a somewhat newer player and your stats are somewhat low, it's really good at dealing with people who have way higher stats than you as well. So any kind of game mode where you're where the enemy pretty much has a lot more stats than you could be using this. It's not better for Explore 12 Quick Kill compared to Flower Dragon, Stellaric, stuff like that. Still better. However, it's a great option earlier on in the game, especially if you don't even own Tesla or something yet. So still a great option, and pretty much just infinite loop into itself. As far as normal ones that are only here this week until they rotate again, there are 2 that are noteworthy. For one, Inferno King. while there are not any ways to really focus on getting Blighted Lands troops this week, other than throwing Chaos Shards at Fell Roost, you can get Inferno King. So if you need a Skull Spam troop to kind of put your team together, Inferno King is in Soulforge. It's a little bit of a waste to spend 800 diamonds on him, but if you really need it to even out your team for the Guild Wars this week, it might be worth considering. It's a little bit of a waste of 800 diamonds, but it would help you out potentially a lot for the Guild War if you were going to be incorporating it into your team. Beyond that, I believe this is the first or second time, I think first, that King Stormguard is available in Soulforge. And I actually want to go get more copies of him. I already have one. He was originally $10 money locked. He has been in a drop table for a little while now, but you would have to go in the really wide drop table. I believe this is the first time he's been targetable directly since his initial release. So, yeah, the main reason you might want to get more of him is there are some really rare circumstances, mostly Taurus and Wild Plains, where it is not horrifically bad to run 2 or 3 of him. The main reason for this is he creates 2 yellow lightning gems per turn, and this stacks, of course. So if you have 2 of them, it's 4. If you have 3 of them, it's 6. And there aren't too many other mana accumulators that could do a ton in both Wild Plains and Taurus. So it can be a good way to kind of offset your amount of mana accumulation by having pretty much guaranteed mana every single turn. Kind of like how you would with like Talk Shock or something similar. This is definitely substantially weaker than things like Talk Shock, Pharaoh, stuff like that. Even the other Goblin thing we had earlier this month. It is weaker than all those. However, it is still an option that does it, while having a pretty decent damage option on his ability as long as he doesn't get hit. His boost ratio based on basically all of his stats, magic just from standard magic, and attack, life, and armor for specifically his boost ratio. So every single stat he has, all 4 of them, is increasing the amount of damage he does. And he also then gets to explode all lightning gems, so if they weren't already taken, you would have a bunch to go explode that way with 2 or 3 on the team. It's very niche when you would bring him out, but he's not awful to bring out 2 or 3 ever so occasionally. For most people, you won't ever really need to get more than 1. Do not do what I just did and get 3, or 3 total. It is not really needed unless you have more diamonds than you ever know what to do with, which is where our current state is. But you realistically only ever need 1 for most teams, but there are a few really gimmicky teams that you're going to bring out occasionally that use 2 or 3, so I figured we'd get them. Anyways, beyond that, as far as weapon, there's only one really worth mentioning here, for the most part, and it's Watcher's Blade. I think we showed it on like 2 or 3 different teams. Really good for any Zol carry restriction. Main thing that you'd use it for this week is Underspire. It explodes a bunch of green, summons a random Zol carry troop, and gives a bunch of stats effect to Zol carry troops. And of course, your full team is restricted to Zol carry, so you're already going to have a 4 times Zol carry team, or 3 times if you're running a different hero class. But yeah, really good just for holding down the line, has resummon, has a bunch of mana accumulation. It's really nice too because there aren't too many like wide mana accumulators from the king. Well, I guess there are, but the one that there doesn't even have any mana conflict with it, the brown-green guy. So you can have both of them onto your team and not mana conflict at all, which we end up doing with one of the team builds as well, using both the brown-green exploder into this. And it just kind of covers pretty much all of your colors and just gives you mana accumulation to whatever your best damage source is, whether that be Flower Dragon or whatever else you have laying around within the kingdom to be able to go and use with it. So that's pretty much the game plan there, and by far the one weapon you'd probably want to make sure you don't leave this week without, mostly to use throughout the week, more so than anything, as you don't really use it too much beyond this event week. Other than that, other things we have going on, this Tuesday we have the faction event for Eldrazor, which is a green-purple restriction. You could literally just copy-paste your purple team from Tower of Doom and just replace out the weapon. Wednesday, we have one of the old Zol carry pets. Thursday, we have ourselves the faction event for Orbweaver. Orbweaver is very rarely used. It's mostly only used in 4 times Zol carry team. One of the bigger things that it has is immune to, I believe, Mana Drain, Web, and Mana Burn, which makes it, I believe, the only hero class that has like that full combo of immunity. So it's kind of nice in that regard. Particularly the Mana Drain immunity, because I believe it also has Stealthy, so you can run Stealthy and Mana Drain immunity, which are some situations where that is pretty decent to have both. And it's very niche, though. You're mostly only really bringing it out for Zol carry teams, like anytime you're running like 4 times Zol carry, 4 times Elf, stuff like that. And Friday, we have ourselves the faction event for, or not the faction event, I mean Thursday, technically, we have the Guild War starting, which of course we went over earlier with everything with that. Beyond that, Tower of Doom throughout the week, Purple Tower of Doom. Basically, just communicate with your guild where all the better rooms are, all the fireballs, all the heroisms, all the unlocks, anything else you want to do. Do not do every single room, otherwise you'll lose a lot of value. Just communicate with your guild, whatever the better ones are, as far as the location and everything. And simply just do whatever those better rooms are, and only do those better rooms. So it is one where you really specifically have to communicate with your guild, as it is different from guild to guild, but within your guild, it is same for all 30 of your guild members. So yeah, make sure to just communicate where all the better ones there are, has some people scouting, and yeah, just only do the better rooms. There's also an event where even if your guild has fully finished out the rewards, which is pretty easy one to actually finish all rewards for, you do generally want to keep going, as you do need to complete out floor 25 25 in order to gain all of the rewards from it, as up to floor 25 completion. Basically, once this says floor 26, you do get an extra scroll per every single one, which is about, getting all of them is enough to half max a new Doom weapon. So those scrolls, of course, are these little scrolls. And while they aren't, where are they? These little scrolls right here, all these like little Dark Doom ones, or Dark Forge ones. But they're used to upgrade the Purple Doom weapon specifically. And yeah, you get about half of them to be able to go max it from that. So you basically go and buy tier 4. This gives you Doom weapon and everything else. A little bit pricey. It's 500 gems, one of the more expensive weeklies in the game. But you do get a lot out of it between being able to upgrade Doom weapons, as well as just being able to help out your guild to be able to complete out the event. But yeah, it gives you enough to upgrade one of the weapons halfway by getting to floor 25 completion. And then, of course, you get all the rewards from helping out your guild from the main rewards tab. So yeah, overall, pretty good event. Beyond that, what else have we not mentioned? Guild. Oh yeah, event key. So, event keys for Zolkari. What is in the event key for Zolkari this week? If we go down to, actually, let me take base rarity here. Base rarity, Zolkari, show all, gosh, it's all the way at the bottom. The struggle of the letter Z. So, everything that is available for Zolkari, or everything that is not in drop table, let's go over those first. So, everything that is not in drop table includes the 5 faction troops from Eldrazi. Those are only from Thoron Chaos Shards at the Eldrazi faction. That's pretty relevant for the Mana Accumulator guy. So if you need him for anything this week, make sure to get him specifically from Thoron Chaos Shards at the faction, not from using event keys. Beyond that, other things that are not in drop table includes the... try to make sure I don't miss one here. The Ace of Cups, this is only from the Volkey drop table. The Blue Flower Dragon, which unfortunately, despite how powerful it is not in drop table. You specifically have to open him from the Flower Dragon eggs. Hopefully you already have them. You can still open some now, but you might not have that much Dragonite laying around. But yeah, he's really useful for Underspire this week. If you have him, you definitely should be running it for it. There are definitely other alternatives that are decent if you don't have him, but it is really good with how much he scales for magic, with how much magic Zolkari has. But yeah, those are all the ones that don't. All the Eldrazi troops, all 5 of them. The Ace of Cups and the Blue Flower Dragon. Everything else that you see here is, I believe this is one of the first times that you can target Mandragora. I'm not sure if anyone has actually gotten him, but he should be in drop table. Let's see if we can see it in global chat real quick. Any Mandragora drops? Any Mandragora drops? Someone's still getting Boom Pile. Let's see. Mandragora. He should, or she should be in drop table. Though I did not see someone in global chat recently getting one, so maybe not. I'm pretty sure it is, though, but if anyone... Oh, there it is. Okay. It is in drop table. Confirmed. Okay, it is. I wasn't 100% sure, but yeah, I believe this is the first time it could be targeted. It came through one of the... Or wasn't this one of the events? I'm pretty sure this was one of the... Or maybe it wasn't. Okay, maybe it wasn't. I actually don't remember now. But yeah, I believe this was one of the $10 money locked ones at one point from one of the events when we had like Web Gem or something. But maybe it wasn't. But regardless, he is definitely in event key drop table, as are every mythic hero aside from the Blue Flower Dragon, which you do specifically have to get in the Flower Dragon drop table. Overall, is it worth opening event keys this week? No. A lot of teams you need a build to even build a Zolkari team. You don't even need anything that are in the drop table. Because if you're running low rarity, you're just running this thing for insta-kill. If you're kind of running any kind of other rarity or anything else, you're kind of using this guy for mana accumulation with that one weapon we showed in Soulforge. At higher rarity range, you're just running Blue Flower Dragon. There is Arachne Weaver, but I wouldn't really try a 1 in 3, technically a 1 in 3,000 chance if you're opening gem keys or something similar. I wouldn't really bother with that just for the chance of Arachne Weaver. Arachne Weaver still has its use cases. Like tomorrow when we cover the video, we'll probably be using in the 4x Elf team for that one defend team. However, there's not too many use cases for it these days. It's kind of gotten power crept a little bit out of the game. Still really strong with Stealthy and Pervious. But yeah, aside from 4x Elf teams, and I guess technically sometimes 4x Monster, that's not really get used too much. It can definitely be used for like Underspire this week if you need it, for Zolkari if you don't have Flower Dragon. But of course, Flower Dragon is just way more overall damage now. But it's still good. It has a bunch of explodes. Still one of the better ways to 4x web in the entire game. Has a really good trait setup, among one of the best of any troops in the entire game. In fact, only has 20 mana cost is still really solid. Most other mythics that would have an ability this good and trait setup this good would have like a 24 to 27 mana cost. So having only 20 while having Elf that can 50% mana start is pretty nice. So overall, still has a lot of things going for it, but it's not as needed as it was in the past these days compared to how much power creep has been in the game. So, yeah, it's still good, just not as needed. So I would say pretty skippable week when it comes to event keys overall, unless you just really wanted to get something. But other than that, the new troop. So new troop's actually not that bad. I don't feel like you're really going to need to use it. I guess maybe in some low rarity team if you kind of want to use it for your mana accumulation. But basically what it does is it converts 6 gems of a chosen color to web gems, and then creates 4 more. So this doesn't have Empower, so you don't get to do this immediately. But it does have a couple things going for it. For one, it is decently tanky, so you can use this as your first slot, which is kind of nice because not too many things in this kingdom are particularly tanky, at least as far as skull reduction is concerned. Some of them have like resummon and stuff like that, but as far as this overall tankability, pretty solid in that regard. But yeah, this is an okay amount of way to go do purple mana accumulation, since it itself uses purple and you can feed back into itself. The biggest issue with this is not so much for Zolcarry, because most of the team is, or most things in Zolcarry have immune to web through one means or another. But the biggest issue with this is if you're using it outside of a Zolcarry instance, because outside of that context, you probably have a lot of things on your team that do not have immune to web. And if you cast this and the enemy gets even 1 web on your main damage source, well, you basically don't have a damage source anymore. Now you need cleanse. And if you don't have cleanse, well, you're kind of out of luck. So can backfire really heavily. When you're running a Zolcarry event week like this week, you could incorporate it into your team, assuming 3 or your whole team has immune to web. But outside that context, you're pretty much never going to be using this, because if he even webs your damage source a single time, it just lost any value that it would have otherwise have given to your team. So very situational when you would bring it out. For the most part, you're not going to be bringing it out, but it could be a way to kind of fit your mana accumulation together if pretty much your entire team has immune to web. But it is very, very situational that you would have a 4 times immune to web team outside of a 4 times Zolcarry instance, as you're generally not building around having that much immunity to something just to counter out your own ability. Beyond that, we still have the summer calendar going. Sometimes there's a few good offers, like this one. I think it's the tied cheapest you can ever get a deed book, so if you ever want to get those or something. But for the most part, most of these offers aren't really too good unless you just really want to end up getting them. Some better than others, like this one. But overall, it's mostly just for the free gems at the end. We get 50 gems like we did yesterday. Hopefully end up claiming it. If not, you still have another opportunity this Sunday to go claim your free 50 gems and a little bit of trait stones and everything that it has. So we have that at the end of the week, as well as all the other offers that come through. Beyond that, what else? Is that everything? I'm pretty sure that's everything then. So yeah, tomorrow we will be getting the version 8.7 patch, as we mentioned. The full patch notes are in the description if you want to go and read over it, though there's not too much here. Even on stream tonight, when we do that 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, we'll mostly just be messing with Tower of Doom and everything else. I don't really think it's worth even reading over this for the most part, as it's pretty much just affecting the first hour experience, which is what I believe most of this is right here. And everything else beyond that is mostly just affecting the early game questing. So like your first 10, 20, 30, maybe up to 50, depending on how slowly you're playing the game, or how over time you're doing it. But it mostly just affects your first playthrough of the game, doing all the quests and everything. So it mostly just affects your first like week, month or so of playtime, particularly the first hour as far as like this over here. So it's mostly just affecting the new player experience. I guess we'll see a little bit of it whenever a Legend Reborn event comes out, but most of that is just, one shot at whatever you're running. And of course, there's a bunch of achievements that come out with it, so if you want to go get those done as soon as it comes out tomorrow night, that's an option too. Just spam something that has a bunch of burn gems, a bunch of freeze gems, and a bunch of barrier gems. You can get these done in like half an hour to an hour, depending on how good your options are that can do that. But if you have everything in the game, you can probably do this in like under half an hour to get all 3 of them completed, if you have a good option for all 3 of them. But yeah, not too much happening with the patch. Really, really small one, mostly as an improvement to the early game experience. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.